Weather is just lovely. Buenos días. Good morning. Bienvenidos a la Congregación Unitariana Universalista de Asheville. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Asheville. Rumi or YouTuber, feligres o en vivo aquí en el santuario, queremos que sepan, we want you to know que quien quiera que seas, whoever you are, de donde quiera que vengas, wherever you come from, a quien quiera que ames, whoever you love, estés donde estés en el viaje de explorar quién eres, wherever you are on the journey of knowing who you are, eres valioso y digne de amor. You are worthy and you are loved. Bienvenidos a nuestro servicio. Welcome to today's service. If you are visiting online, we invite you to introduce yourselves in the chat and tell us where you are viewing from. We are glad that you are with us today. We are grateful this morning for our worship team, Adam Griffith, our worship associate, our choir that is growing and brings us joy on Sunday mornings, our music director, Les Down, and The Treat. Woo! And we have Will Jernigan on the drum this morning. Gracias. Tenemos el tambor, and then we have Jason Smith, who is our AV tech. Thank you, Jason. So here we are on this beautiful, cool fall day in Asheville with gratitude for the beauty around us, with our children in the house, with visitors, and those of you who have been here many, many times. We are community. This place is sacred right now in this moment because you are here. Let us take a few breaths together. And now let us prepare for worship with our centering music.
Now is the time in our service when we light our chalice. So if we could have Zaylee and Lorelei please come help light the chalice.
Oops, here.
Perfect, thank you. Flame, friend of our most ancient ancestors, we kindle you now in this time. Yet in truth you burn always. In the unique worth of each person, in the imagination, in the turning of the heart to sorrow or joy, in the call to hope and in the call to justice, burn bright before us, burn bright within us. Please join in body or spirit for hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit, and rise as you are willing or able.
And we gather to celebrate the presence of this community. We gather in hope, we gather in compassion, and we do gather in strength. And this morning for our wisdom story, I have a poem. And for all our children, the slides are going to be up here because the art is really special. And it's way better to see it on the slides than to see it in the little book if I sit with you. So this poem is entitled Remember. And it was written by U.S. Poet Laureate Joy Harjo, and the art is by Michaela Goad. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them. Listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember. So today, children, as you go to your classes, I hope that you think about today and the way the trees are changing color and the coolness of the temperature as we move from summer through fall, through winter. And as you walk to class, I hope you look around and see each other and know that it is important for us to be kind and to welcome each other. So we will be singing you to your classes, and if you are visiting today, you are welcome to go to class with your parents so they know where you will be and where you can be picked up. So congregation, let us rejoice and celebrate our children as they go to faith formation this morning. So look around. Look at all this space. We are blessed that our sanctuary is full when we gather on Sunday mornings because we have an amazing religious exploration team and volunteers that as we do our faith development in this space are making sure that our children and youth are doing their faith development in their classrooms. So for that, we are truly grateful. And we're going to take a moment now, as is our custom, on this Sunday morning, on this Sabbath day, to pay attention to our breath, to pay attention to what we bring inside us, the joys, the sorrows, the cares, the concerns. And we're going to have a moment of spoken meditation and a moment of silence before we engage in our ritual of the stones and the water. So just take a few more deep breaths, feel your back against the pew, your feet on the ground if you so wish, and just take a few breaths. And let us share a moment of prayer or meditation, as is your practice. This prayer is adapted from the words of Frederick Gillis. Spirit of love and life and community, in which we share and find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward one another, seeking to bring into our circle of concern all who need our love and support. Those who are ill, those who are in pain, either in body or in spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. We are part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. We are grateful for the miracle of consciousness that we share, the consciousness that gives us the power to remember, to love, and to care. Let us share a moment of silence together. And now is the time when we acknowledge our joys and sorrows with the ritual of the water and rocks. And we take time as we do our ritual to put in some petals to represent the beauty in our lives, the joys and the contentment that we have. And of course, those are alongside the sorrows that we carry for ourselves, for our country, and for our world. And we represent those with salt, which we place in the water. If you are home, we will invite you to write a joy or a sorrow that you have in the chat. And if you are here with us, I invite you to come forward and share a joy or sorrow through a stone or through adding a little bit of salt to our vessel. Let our ritual begin. What do we do with those?
Yeah, I'll take it up to.
Okay.
I just.
Oh, because you do. Yes. No, you do that because I'm going to be talking. If you have shared a joy, know that this community rejoices with you. If you carry a sorrow this morning, know that you are held in love and care. And Adam will place a final stone and salt for those joys and sorrows, for those of you at home and those in our community who are not with us today, because our community is community gathered or apart.
I have worked in Cherokee, North Carolina for about 5 years, and I have seen and learned a lot. The most important thing that I have learned is that it's important for me to learn the history of indigenous people in their own words. Cherokee is home to the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, one of 3 federally recognized Cherokee tribes. When people hear that I work in Cherokee, North Carolina, they often ask me what the Cherokee Nation thinks about this issue or that. And I generally have 2 problems with that question. The first is that the Cherokee Nation is in Oklahoma, and the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians is here in Cherokee, North Carolina. The second problem I have with the question is, if you ask 3 people for their perspective on an issue, you're likely to get 4 opinions. So, indigenous people, in my opinion, are no different. So what have I seen and learned? I have seen graduate students propose research that they think is best for Cherokee people. I have seen university professors write grants and get grant funding from granting institutions without any involvement from Cherokee tribal members. You can imagine that these don't go very well, these projects. I have seen people think that they can dig up soils on sacred sites and test those soils scientifically. And you can imagine how well that goes. I have learned that it is more important to be able to give forgiveness than to receive it. Because if you're expecting forgiveness, you might still be waiting for it. I have learned how to listen. And I've learned that it's more difficult to do something with someone than for someone. I've learned that the Native American arrowhead that I found in our garden as a child, that the Amish mule team plowed up, does not belong to me, and that I need to return it, that it belongs to the people that made it. People in Cherokee ask where I grew up, and I say I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And a lot of people know where that is, and even a surprising number have been there. They tell me about the Central Market, they tell me how great particular food items are, and I think, how in the world are you so familiar with this? But now I know why, and that's because I educated myself just a teensy bit. Lancaster is maybe 30 or 40 miles from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and there was an Indian boarding school in Carlisle where many Cherokee were sent. Most of them came home, but some of the people in Cherokee have ancestors buried there. So, here on the day before Indigenous Peoples Day, let's all take the first step together and learn about our history, the history of our faith and Native American boarding schools.
I think we want to honor Harry Belafonte, who passed away earlier this year, who's in his 90s. So we're going to sing a fun song by him.
Turn
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. We are from the water. We are from the mountain. We are from the fire. And it's important to ask ourselves who we are. Where do we come from? Where are we going? And this morning, we began with a wisdom story that reminds us of where we come from, of our connection to the earth. And it's a wisdom story that was written and illustrated by two women who are indigenous women. And tomorrow, as Adam mentioned, many will have the day off for what has been called Columbus Day, and what we now in many cities and states recognize as Indigenous Peoples Day, to acknowledge not only the richness and resilience of indigenous cultures, but also to acknowledge the harm done by colonialism and government policies. And a great irony is the fact that indigenous people maintained a more sustainable and respectful relationship with the natural world. What a pity we did not listen. What a pity we did not learn from them. Because today we find ourselves struggling to limit and adapt to widespread and now possibly irrevocable environmental ruin because of our culture that centers on growth, on consumerism, and wealth. And so today we are going to spend a little time on Indigenous history. And I invite you to consider that although it is American history, it transcends and predates the narrow focus of our history. Our history, a history that emerged from the invasive, expansive, genocidal, settler, colonial mindset that was disastrous for indigenous people. And it is a history that today is embodied in the generational trauma and challenges faced by Native communities. And alongside that is their resilience. Alongside that is the beauty of their poetry, of their art, the richness of their being. because sometimes we get caught up in just the history. They are survivors, and they are with us still. And it calls to mind the words of James Baldwin, who offered this insight. History is not the past. It is the present. We carry our history with us. We are our history. And our challenge is to know our own history, to interrogate the history that has been taught to us, because as we know, history is written by the victors and is often incomplete. So this morning we'll explore a few stories. Some of us may know them, some of us may not, but I hope that they will inform our understanding of history and move us toward justice and healing. And because we are going to talk a little bit about Indigenous history, I just want us to just hold in our hearts just some space and some awareness that these stories may not be easy to hear, and that the purpose is always for us to learn and explore how we can do better. And we are going to just talk a little bit of one part of Indigenous history, which is the legacy of the Native American boarding school system that has received very little attention until recently. So I just want to begin with a question. How many of you have heard about the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative? Wonderful. So quite a few have heard about that. This initiative was launched in June of 2021 by Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, whose grandparents were boarding school survivors. And this initiative had the goal of investigating and documenting the legacy of federal Indian boarding school policies, with the goal of addressing the intergenerational trauma and the impact that they caused for our Indigenous siblings. And in May of 2022, the report was released, and part of the report was documenting the 408 federally operated schools that existed in our country. And to date, that number has risen to 523. And the second part of this project will try to identify the children. And sadly, in some of these schools, there are burial sites because, as Adam mentioned, not only was there forced assimilation happening in these schools, but there was often abuse, and many children died, and many families never had closure in these situations. And so it does sadden us to think not only of the cruelty of this history that we inherit, but the reality of the damage that was done to so many children. And so in response to the report's recommendations, Secretary Haaland has traveled around the country conducting listening sessions with survivors of these schools, helping connect communities with trauma-informed support, and facilitating a collection of their oral histories. And she recognizes that it's not just about documenting, but it's about healing and about the responsibility to support the revitalization of Native languages and cultures that has been neglected. This is an important part of the story because the government, whose misguided policies caused harm and violence to so many children, families, and communities, is finally acknowledging that history, documenting it, and working toward healing. And that is what accountability calls us to do. And I think it is also an example in these times when institutions are, we're recognizing their fallibility, and many of us are wanting to set them aside. There is opportunities for institutions to do good if they are able to hold themselves accountable. And I shared this story about accountability because this year, during General Assembly, I encountered a similar call for accountability in an essay that I found in this book, The Journal of Unitarian Universalist History. And I was at one of the exhibit booths, and this picture, you can't see it, but there's a picture here, and the caption is the Montana Industrial School for Indians at Ramona Ranch. And it was a boarding school that was run by Unitarians. And I did not know that. And so it really, it shocked me. And I took that, I read it, and I thought, I'm gonna have to preach about this because it is important for us to acknowledge our history. And there's an essay in here by Dana Capasso Stivers, which begins with a call for accountability from the delegates of the 2007 General Assembly, calling the Unitarian Universalist Association to research Unitarian Universalist history to, quote, uncover our links and complicity with the genocide of Native peoples and with all types of racial, ethnic, and cultural oppression, with the goal of accountability through acknowledgement, apology, repair, and reconciliation. The UUA accepted the call, and unspoken histories began to emerge. 2 years later, in the 2009 General Assembly held in Salt Lake City, Utah, then UUA President Reverend William Singford spoke about the relationships between the Unitarians and the Utes, indigenous people living in what is now Utah. He shared a little bit of history and admitted he didn't know all the history, but was sharing what he had learned to date. And he shared that in 1870, President Grant asked Protestant denominations to take over administration of various Indian reservations. The American Unitarian Association, and note that this is Unitarian pre-merger, which happened in 1961. So we're talking about the Unitarian side of the house. They accepted responsibility, if you can accept that kind of responsibility, for the Northern Ute people from 1870 to 1876. And the denominations were expected to civilize the Utes, forcing them to give up their culture and assimilate to American culture. Reverend Singford recognized their engagement as cultural imperialism and acknowledged that the effort brought wretchedness and destitution to the Utes. He offered an apology to the Ute people for Unitarians' historical complicity in crimes and violence against them. Forrest Koo, a member of the Ute Nation, rose and responded to Singford's remarks. He began by saying that he spoke as an individual, not for his community, and then said, "I accept your apology." He spoke further about the importance of education to get beyond continuing prejudice against indigenous people, and said, "Your forgiveness is not going to solve everything, but at least it's a start." And it is a start for us to learn that history and think about the implications of how we can do different moving forward. In the essay, Stivers writes about another relationship between Unitarians and indigenous peoples that has been largely ignored. And that is the story of the Montana Industrial School for Indians, founded and managed by the American Unitarian Association from 1886 to 1895 in the Crow Reservation in Montana. During its early years, the school was run by Reverend Henry Bond and his wife Pamela, who Stivers wrote, believed their work was in line with social justice and other philanthropic causes of their day. Their goal was to assimilate the children to Anglo-American ideals, teach them to read and write in English, and provide job skills, eliminating Crow language and culture from their experience. When the school opened, each pupil was given an anglicized name. Now, recruiting students was challenging, and many of the parents were concerned that their children would be homesick. There was a practice of withholding rations from families whose children were not enrolled. Bond was able to recruit enough students to open the school, but he had to deal with breakouts of measles and illness among the students, and with students running away consistently from the school. Eventually, he built a parents' building so parents could visit their children, share a meal with them, and stay overnight. This made the school more acceptable, but the paternalism and violence of the children's forced assimilation and separation from their families and culture cannot be ignored. When Bonds retired, another Unitarian, Reverend Spencer, ran the school until it closed due to lack of federal funding. So how do we hold those hard parts of our history? The Unitarians we heard about, Reverend Bond and his wife Pamela and Reverend Spencer, truly believed they were putting their faith in action. And it reminds us of how these things that we believe can blind us to the realities of the impact of our behaviors. I was so shocked when I heard these stories, and I had one of those wait moments. Are you burying their history? But in fact, when I got this and started reading and did more research, I found a lot of information on our website. I watched a video of Reverend Singford offering an apology, and sometimes that history is hidden in plain sight. And we don't know what we don't know. And that's why it is important to be curious and to be open about interrogating history. It is important to remember that good intentions are not enough. Acknowledging history that has caused harm is the very least that we can do. Painful as they are, these stories invite us to be honest about our history, to recognize that our understanding of what is right and wrong evolves over time and must be based on an unfiltered understanding of our past. And I hope that just this glimpse of some of this history motivates us to work for healing and repair so that we avoid perpetuating and continuing mistakes of the past. I hope that tomorrow you take time to reflect on the significance of Indigenous Peoples Day. And I invite you to consider these two questions. And Adam alluded to one of them earlier. What do you know? What do we know about Indigenous culture and history? In particular, that of the Indigenous people in our area. And I will be sharing sermon notes in the e-news this Thursday, which has a really interesting lecture about the Cherokee by Dr. Barbara Duncan, who was the former education director of the Museum of the Cherokee Indian. How many of you have been to the Museum of the Cherokee Indian? That's great, because it's important that we learn and we understand what is happening in our communities. I've had some of you ask me over the time that I've been here why we don't do a land acknowledgement before worship like is done in so many places. And personally, and I could be wrong on this, but personally, I think that if we do a land acknowledgement, it is because we have educated ourselves about what is happening in our community. And it is because we are finding ways to work toward healing and justice and reparation for Indigenous people. Otherwise, it's vacuous, it's performative. It's another thing in our liturgy that is there for us to feel good about ourselves when we are not doing what we are doing. And again, that's my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I hope that someday in the future, we might be able to offer land acknowledgement language because of the relationship and the work that we are doing. So besides educating ourselves and figuring out how we can build relationship, my second ask is, how many of you have heard of Senate Bill 1723? It was introduced in the Senate to pass the Truth and Healing Commission on Indian boarding school policies. This could be an opportunity for advocacy. The bill would promote continued documentation of what happened and accountability for the ongoing impact that attending these boarding schools have had for generations of Indigenous people. And the sermon notes will also include information about this bill. So take a few deep breaths. It's hard history. And it's not history, I don't think, about shaming ourselves. It's history about challenging ourselves to know and to explore what can happen moving forward. Because yes, we do carry this history with us. We can't unknow it. And at the same time, we have collective agency to engage in creating a more just and equitable present. So as I close, I invite you to listen to these words from Maya Angelou, who wrote, "History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived. But if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift your eyes upon the day breaking before you and give birth again to the dream." So I ask you, what is that dream? What is that dream for us individually, for us as Unitarian Universalists at this time in our nation's history, on this day before Native Peoples Day, when we honor our Indigenous siblings? Friends, may we leave this space willing to act to make the dream of justice, equity, and healing true for all those who have been oppressed by policies, indifference, and complicity. May it be so. So now let us rise in body or spirit and join our voices in song.
Now is the time in our service where we invite visitors to stand and introduce themselves if they are comfortable. We have ushers that will bring a microphone around, so we would like to hear what you have to say if you're comfortable enough to share.
Good morning. Greetings from Savannah. I'm a 40-year member of that church. It's great to be here. It's fascinating to contemplate the struggle we're talking about today. The Cherokee Nation's capital was in Georgia, by the way, if you want to go visit it.
Welcome.
Good morning. Good, great. Good morning. I'm Katie Shivani Gelfand. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration and Staff Supervisor at the First Unitarian Universalist Church in New Orleans, and I'm visiting my dear friends here in Asheville, and I always love to come, and it's such a wonderful church. You'll have a great community and such a thriving RE program, so it's always a joy to come and see what y'all have going on. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Mariah Havlicek. This is my first time here, and I'm excited to join the community, Friends of Sequoia, and some other families that attend. I grew up going at times to Unitarian Church. My friend was the pastor, and it's been a long time since I've been with the congregation, and excited to be here. Never thought I would ask to take off work on Sundays to go back to church. So it was like weird to say out loud for the first time, but very excited. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, we're Bill and Terry Walsh, and we're from Charleston, South Carolina, but we have just moved to the Asheville area, and this is our first time to explore your church. And our first Unitarian church ever was the Unitarian Church in Charleston, and it was an experience that we really came to appreciate and enjoy. And just seeing, this is the first time we've ever been to any other Unitarian church. So it's just a wonderful atmosphere, and I think both Terry and I are feeling a joy, a connection, and a love here that is very special. And I think you have a wonderful community, and we hope to be back. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Christina. This is my first time being at any church like this. I haven't been to a church in about 10 years, but I grew up going to an Orthodox Presbyterian church, which was very different from this. But I'm excited to be here today, and I've been looking for this kind of community.
Welcome. Thank you, Wonder Wes. So I'm telling you that is untempered glass, so let's stand clear of that area. But we have another visitor.
Hi, I'm Dan. I oftentimes am broken like the glass. I'm a musician from Los Angeles, California, and I came here to do a show in July, and then I keep coming back, so I'm kind of bi-coastal now. If I'm here, if I'm not touring on Sundays, I like to find a church. I grew up a Southern Baptist preacher's kid. This is a lot better than the way I grew up. So, thank y'all for this community. It's nice to meet you.
Welcome.
I just wanted to let folks know a window simply broke. There's no danger or anything else, and we'll get a crew out there to clean it up. So rest assured, everything's okay.
We have another announcement.
Yeah. I'm Tori. I'm a member here, and I want to invite all the visitors that we have a visitor welcome table straight across in Sandberg Hall, so you can find more about the congregation and what we have to offer.
Nice. Thank you, Tori. Thank you to all our visitors who introduced themselves. Let's show them some love in Sandberg Hall and talk to them, ask them some questions, right? Let's shatter the norms. Our announcements run as slides at the beginning of the service. If you missed them, refer to Thursday's weekly e-news, as everything is described there. If you don't receive the e-news, ask an usher to show you how to sign up. A big thank you to the T-shirt brigade, the yellow T-shirt brigade, that showed up for Pride and URU, Universal Rainbow Unity, who organized and managed our table. It was important to show up and support our LGBTQ siblings. May we continue to be allies for LGBTQ justice. Now we have a quick message from Anna Martin.
Hi, my name's Anna Martin. I'm a member of this congregation. I'm also chair of the Board of Trustees at The Mountain. My pronouns are she, her. I have a question for everyone here. Would you please raise your hand if you're registered to attend the congregational retreat next weekend? Exciting. So, to explain for everyone else, once a year, about 100 members of this community have an intergenerational weekend retreat at The Mountain. The Mountain Retreat and Learning Center is a beautiful spot outside of Highlands, North Carolina, about 2 hours south of here. The Mountain is a nonprofit whose values are based in Unitarian Universalism. They have summer camps for kids and adults, and the rest of the year they have retreats of all kind. For example, this weekend some of our members are currently at a Women's Spirit retreat. You can see more information about the Mountain on the bulletin board in Sandberg Hall. Well, next weekend is our weekend. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be fun. Our retreat next weekend is full, but come talk to me if you want to be next on the wait list. So for everyone who raised their hand today, I will see you very shortly, because right after service today, you're going to, if you have children in religious exploration, you're going to go down, you're going to collect those kids, and we're going to have an intergenerational orientation today, right after the service, a few minutes after the service. We'll keep it as short as we can. We will review our covenant. We'll talk about some changes to this year's retreat, talk about critical packing items like a pumpkin, and many more. You'll have to come. That's the teaser. We'll leave space for people to connect about carpooling, and we'll answer any questions. Or if you're watching the service online, then there's a Zoom orientation at 4 p.m. That Zoom link is in the e-news. See you soon.
Oh, thank you, Anna. You did a great job. They clapped. And that's right here, that meeting. Yeah. Our community plate partner this month is Transmission, with a Z. Transmission is a trans-led organization whose mission is to make the lives of transgender, non-binary, and gender-divergent people safer, happier, and healthier through education, advocacy, and support. They have an on-site food pantry, affirming garments closet, and name change program. You can contribute by writing Community Plate in the memo line of your check. You can also donate online at transmission.org. That's trans with a Z. Today's offering will now be collected and gratefully received. If this is your first time here, please let the collection plate pass you by. This service is our gift to you, and your presence is your gift to us. For the gifts of your time, your presence, your talents, and your treasure, we are grateful.
Thank you. Our closing words this morning are adapted by Susan Carlson. We did hear heavy things. We have things to think about. And I invite us to leave here with also feelings of joy and possibilities. So we leave blessed by our connections to one another and the Spirit of life. Walk lightly that you see the life that is below your feet. Spread your arms as if you had wings and could dance through the air. Feel the joy of the breath in your lungs and the fire in your heart. Friends, live to be a blessing on this earth. And now as we depart, let us bless each other with our closing song, Longtime Son. Please rise in body or spirit.